Hi, good afternoon. I hope everybody had a good lunch. It's pretty warm outside, so the air conditioning is out in my office building, so I'm at home trying to get all of the grading done for the end of the semester. So if my cat comes walking up, just ignore him and say hello. So today I wanted to present to you the work of the California Open Educational Resources Council. I'm going to provide you with an overview of some of the things, the highlights of what we've done in the past semester based on a bill that was passed in 2012 and signed and put into legislation. And I think there's going to be time for Q&A at the end, and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. We still have 2 more sessions to go through in terms of our meetings for this semester, so we're still finalizing some things before we go into our hiatus for the council members. So the goal of, we call it the council instead of COERC, so the goal of the council is to really increase faculty adoption of a high-quality affordable or free course materials to save our students some money. There have been tales of woe from our students about textbooks costing anywhere from $300 to $500 for a single textbook, and so the state legislation took it upon themselves to craft legislation so that we could start to really use open educational resources or open access resources. So the council's job has been to start from ground zero and use everything that's been facilitated so far across the country in terms of open educational resources or OER. So we're adapting from a lot of different places, but we're also on an educational mission to help our faculty to adopt as best as we can, and that means involving faculty and students in the process. So the idea is that we will significantly improve the affordability of quality higher education experience for students and materials. Now, this means that we've had conversations about what affordability means, and that's just involved in some of the ways that we've had to create our own foundation for the California segments of higher education. So we are governed by the state bills 1052 and 1053 that were passed in 2012. It took about 2 years to create the funding from there, and once we got it in January, we hit the ground running when we started immediately with meetings in January. We have the CSU is the one who are really in charge of the grant, because Jerry Hanley in the Chancellor's office was the one to find the Hewlett and the Gates Foundation money. And you can see here we were awarded $500,000 from the Hewlett Foundation, $500,000 from the Gates Foundation, and then the state of California matched those grants according to SB 1052 and 1053. From the legislation, we have certain things that we are supposed to do. The first thing is to select 50 courses that run across the community colleges, the CSUs, and the UCs, and we use a certain protocols to do that. I'll get to that in a second. Our second thing was to create and administer a rigorous review process, which faculty wants, in terms of what OER materials can be used. The next is the educational phase, the promote production, access, and use of these materials for faculty and students. The next one is solicit input from our student associations, and then the next one after that in a different phase is request for proposals to create OER materials that we found were lacking in any of the courses that we've selected. Now, revive out-of-print textbooks as OER materials was something that was important to faculty, and so we will investigate that along with the librarians later in a later phase. So I put this text on the screen not expecting you to read it all, but to tell you, to demonstrate to you that we have a lofty set of goals in front of us. The state legislation outlines just the scant goals and deliverables, and then the Intersegmental Council of Academic Senates were the ones who were supposed to outline our governance. And so they gave us several things that we needed to do. And number 2, prominently work collegial under the direction of the council project coordinator to produce the deliverables specified in the Hewlett grant proposal timeline. That's what's governing our phases right now. And so 9 faculty members were put together in order to address all of the rest of what ICAS has set up for us. All of these are also available on our web pages through the ICAS website if you want to go and take a look at them a little bit more closely. I do want to highlight number 5, develop a process for review teams. And this is a protocol to be set up and initiated, but then held to protocols through time immemorial that will be, that the California Open Source Digital Library will adhere to. So we're not just creating it for this particular project, we want to create a foundation for using OER materials across the board throughout California. So there's sustainability and there will be history to our project. And the goals from ICAS continue as well, including sending regular reports to ICAS. And from ICAS, we will report to the state legislation as well. I just want to note that the digital library is one of the first to be created for a massive state system. The community colleges, the UCs, and the CSUs accumulate more than 350 different institutions across the board. So we're trying to integrate everybody's needs and desires, and we needed a library in order to integrate all of those things. The council is not responsible for the library, but I sit on the library's board, and I communicate what the council would like from them, and then we all report back to ICAS and to the state legislation. Now, the library is governed by somebody else by the name of Una Daly, and Leslie Kennedy is also out of the chancellor's office and works for Jerry Hanley, and she's also governing that. So the council that we're working with is specifically towards finding OER materials, the sustainability of them, the production of them, the creation of the actual platforms is up to the library to figure it out, and we've been working with them in concert. So you can see the infrastructure here has already been set up. The council with the project coordinator reports to ICAS, 3 people from ICAS who represents the CSU, UCs, and the community colleges. I also report to the project investigator, Jerry Hanley, in the chancellor's office, and he reports directly to the Hewlett and the Gates Foundation anytime that we want to change any deliverables. ICAS reports to Darrell Steinberg, who is the California Senate President Pro Tem, and from my understanding, we will have a meeting with him this summer in which we go and report what we've been doing this semester. And ICAS is responsible for reporting to then all of the segments and their academic senates. We formed the membership in January 2014. They had their first meeting, and then they hired me 2 weeks later, thanks to Diana Gordon's efforts. And then we really hit the ground running in terms of our meeting schedule and what we had to accomplish. You can see that we have a variety and a diversity of members from the community colleges, the UCs, and the CSUs. We just added Ruth Guthrie about 2 weeks ago, if she's still going to have us, and she'll join us in the fall, and she's in CIS, so she rounds out all of the disciplines as well. Now, we have certain deliverables according to the Hewlett Foundation grant. It changes a little bit in terms of the legislation, but it's working towards the goals of the legislation itself. In March, we did achieve all of these deliverables along with the library. In April, we're still working on the survey of faculty, administrators, and students, and we will talk about that at our next meeting on Monday when we meet face-to-face. We're setting up the review panels right now for the summer, and have a few things to report on that. Faculty wanted to be reviewers in droves even before they knew that there was a stipend to go with it, so we were very pleased with that. So we've already selected our 5 courses. We started with 50, and then we narrowed down to 5, and each of those 5 courses has anywhere between 5 and 10 OER textbooks, completed textbooks, in order for us to review this semester. So the criteria included highly enrolled according to the CID. This is the transfer system. That was the first place that we had to go to make sure that all these courses would transfer across the UCs, the CSUs, and the community colleges. The things that the 4 identifying marks for general education, critical thinking, oral communication, quantitative reasoning, and written communication also came into effect when we chose the courses. They generate significant textbook savings was very important, and we had long discussions about what that meant. If we could find OER materials and textbooks that were free or at very low cost, and low cost we were looking at significantly reduced from their original textbooks. That they're relatively consistent across textbook products, that's a work in progress. It provides opportunities for faculty to augment the open textbooks, and that's going to be important, and we saw that it was important from faculty that they be able to manipulate the textbooks. This means that we use textbooks primarily that are Creative Commons, and I'll get to that in a moment. Access to multiple OER textbooks for any given course was also a consideration, and that's also a work in progress. We found the ones that we could find, we consulted with people, and then now we will add to that after the proof of concept this particular summer. 5 courses selected were public speaking, microeconomics, U.S. history, intro to chemistry, and introduction to statistics. Now, this is the first time that we're revealing this. We've been working without a PR release. We will do an official PR release across all 3 segments June 1st, so you get the first look at the CSU Academic Senate statewide meeting. So defining the criteria, protocols, and boundaries has been our mainstay throughout all of our meetings. Textbook was one thing that we had to grapple with, even though as faculty members, we all know what a textbook means in a traditional sense of the codex form. There are many faculty members who are not using a singular textbook that's bound and packaged together. So we had to grapple with ancillary materials, the use of videos, the accumulation of materials as links, and actually define a textbook for our needs for this phase 1 only. We will open it up as we move into phase 2. It was essential that things come in Creative Commons licensing. For those of you who haven't had experience with Creative Commons, they allow a different level of licensing that's granted by the original author or publisher, and it allows either manipulation, or it stipulates no manipulation, or it's a creative buy that you give credit where credit is due. And that's something that the libraries are also embracing now. Academic publishers are slow to embrace those kinds of things because then they don't gain any money from them. So we've had to really stipulate CC BY, which is the nomenclature for Creative Commons licensing. These things are also defined in our glossary that we've created, and you can see the URL at the bottom, and I'll flash that again. So we surveyed the faculty, and we started this survey on April 1st, trying to find a good time to send it out to faculty. And we've utilized as many government figures as we can possibly use on all 3 segments. But we've had 950 responses out of 48,000 faculty from across all 3 segments. And this is as of May 12th. We've made other initiatives to push forward to specifically find faculty to respond from those 5 courses and 5 disciplines that we've already identified. And we just did that in the next 2 weeks, and we're hoping that we get a much larger response. So this is I'm showing you some interesting things that come out of it. How familiar are you with the open textbooks? You'll see that so far 23% say they've never heard of them. 40% say they've never looked for any. And so this will give us some good information in terms of the education phase. How do we get the information out to faculty? Our librarians across all 3 segments have been and will continue to be instrumental in talking about open access materials and open educational resources. We've even got an open access week already, and I believe it's in March or September, and our libraries, at least across the CSUs, have the ones who've been promoting that. We also have an Affordable Learning Act that we've been promoting across the CSU. Leslie Kennedy is the one who's been spearheading that. If you haven't heard about it on your campus, you should probably contact your librarian. There's a lot of money to convert textbooks into OER materials and to be stored in repositories right now. It's in action. In the next survey question, or one of them, what did faculty want? Well, how could we get them to create or use these materials? And some of them say things like assurance that the textbook would be peer-reviewed through an established process, and that's one of the things that we're working on. You'll see that it's very important to 35%, important to 32%, and then moderately important to 21%. And this was weighted very heavily in the survey that we did, so this is also taken into consideration when we set up the review protocols. Since OER materials are something different, we are attempting to not just replicate peer review. So we're expanding the idea of peer review, making it public, allowing people to continue to comment. It's been bandied about that we're doing what's called a Yelp-style peer review. That's not quite what we're doing. What we're doing instead is offering transparency in the peer review process. So the next question that was interesting was how much support from the administration would you like to see, and is it important to you? And you notice an overwhelming 50% said it's very important in tenure and promotion decisions and raises, just in peer review as well in terms of faculty in their own discipline accepting it. The desire to reduce cost to students was overwhelmingly important at 67%. We already knew this, we just needed the figures to go with it. Educational institutions, and this is really interesting, university, four-year college, or state college, or community college. Overwhelmingly, the community college faculty responded. We have a university and four-year college are a mix between the UCs and the CSUs. This is an anonymous survey, so people don't have to report where they come from if they don't want to. But we would like to see, since the UCs and the CSUs also have a large number of faculty, we would like to see those numbers raise up, and we're working on that as well. One thing I'd like to note is that nobody's done this kind of survey before, so I have librarians knocking on the door asking for the information. We would like to release it to them when we get to the end of the semester's work here. So we would like to actually have more than 950 responses. So the distribution of disciplines for the faculty survey participants, let's take out the word studies and the word science, because those science, there were 32 occurrences of science, but they were in a phrase rather than just science itself. So faculty self-identified in terms of their disciplines, and we cleaned up that list. And we have, if we have science, we have computer science, or we have technical sciences and social sciences, things like that. So you see that engineering, communication, computer, health, research, management, literature, they're all a little bit larger. And this is a word cloud that is apportioned according to how many occurrences there are of that particular word. And we will continue. This is based on the April 28th responses, so we will continue to do a word cloud to see where we are with it and clean it up. Our wonderful assistant, Teresa Dykes, is the one who takes care of this for us, so it's nice to have a very competent staff member. We also, at the bottom of the survey, requested reviewers and asked people to self-identify. We didn't mention that there was a stipend. We have 314 self-identified reviewers as of May 12th. We will start to send out invitations and more queries about their qualifications to review these particular textbooks after our next meeting on Monday. And you'll see, again, let's take out the words science and studies. Computer, education, English, history are the largest ones who responded to be reviewers. And we're pushing forward to make sure we get a distribution of reviewers from the disciplines that need to review these particular textbooks. This is the response. This is where we need help. So on April 1st, we sent an email to all of the student government leaders in all three segments. ICAS has also stepped in to help us, as well as several different council members contacting UC student regents personally, and the community colleges and the UC and the CSUs. We've had only 100 responses as of May 12th from our students. We know this is something important from them. We desperately need to hear from them. We would also like to include students in the conversation. So if you do know a student government leader, please ask them to respond to the survey or the emails that we've sent, or to send me an email. We would like to invite them to the Monday meeting, but we haven't heard from them yet. So that means that I would like to work on this summer inviting them to a meeting in fall to make sure that we get their input. We will have student review panels, and as soon as we get more input from the students, we will apportion all of the reviews after the faculties have done their reviews, and we'll ask students to do usability studies. How does it relate to what they need to do in terms of their mobile applications or in terms of computer access, or if there's something in that particular field that they think that we've missed, we want to talk to them about it. In this way, students have input about something in terms of affordability. Can they afford $10 at a time rather than the $60 textbook? The next steps for us, identify and invite faculty reviewers. That's upcoming in the next 2 weeks. Faculty reviewers will receive a stipend up to $1,000 for these reviews over the summer, so we really value the input of the faculty and the work they're going to do this summer. To complete the protocols and the infrastructure for the reviews will be a little bit different than peer review. We'll make sure that they actually talk to each other, and then also the reviews will be public. So we'll take them through a bit of a boot camp about how to do the review without trying to sway them on what we want them to say in the reviews themselves. The review panel should be completed by August 1st. That's our goal. And then we integrate those reviews into the digital library website for phase 1. And we also will have a showcase on the library side about the best possible textbooks that are available. We will evaluate the textbook selection. We'll do a proof of concept for this reviewing, and then also course selection in the fall again. We want to really resolve the student involvement issues. And then we also this summer will report to the California State Senate. And then we'll reconvene the council in the fall. They end their work after these next 2 sessions for the summer, and then we come back to it. This is our website. It's informational only for now. We haven't publicized it in terms of the press. If the press has found it, they can certainly use it, but we wanted to coordinate the press release across all 3 segments, hence why it's taken so long towards June 1st. Now, I have to say the 9 council members have been the one of the best pieces of work I've ever had the pleasure of working with. I'm a non-voting member. What I do is take what they want and go and report out and guide them in what it is that we're doing with the help of Leslie Kennedy and Una Jaley from the other side, the library side. And again, I want to also thank Teresa Dykes for helping me out. She jumped in 2 weeks ago as our administrative assistant, has done swimmingly. I also want to thank Diana Brennan for pulling me in, because this has probably been the pinnacle of the service work that I've done for the CSU. I've been really enjoying it and trying to understand what we need from our students and to help them across all of the segments. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I understand we're going to take questions, and we'll try to do that. I'll try to answer your questions as they come across.
Oh, buttons up here today. First, I'd like to thank you, Kathy Harris, for your excellent presentation. This is a first for us, and we've really enjoyed seeing the use of the technology, and you've demonstrated wonderfully for us. So I don't know if you can hear us, but we're going to give you a round of applause. And although you're very kind in telling the Senate that I pulled you in, we did interview several candidates, and you rose to the top. So it's you, not me. Let's see. We do have a speakers list, and on it we have, at this point, Senators Pasternak and Kaiser. So let me introduce you to Senator Barry Pasternak from Cal State Fullerton.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you very much for your presentation. Next year, I'll be representing the Emeriti faculty on the statewide Senate, and I wanted to remind you that we have about 10,000 retired faculty who could serve as a really good resource in terms of reviewing materials for your project. So, and if you need help with that, you can contact the CSU-OER office.
Well, thank you. I'm furiously taking notes. I have a little difficulty hearing as well. I'm taking down as best as I can. If somebody in the room can take down some notes about who I can contact as well, I would also appreciate it. Can you tell me your name again?
I can email you the contact information. But
okay, thank you. I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Senator Kaiser.
We were just, this is Kathy Kaiser from Chico. I was consulting with my colleague also from Chico. He's in chemistry, I'm in Soch. Neither one of us remember getting the survey. So one question was about how did you distribute it, or did you have a selected random sample? And I know the student is going to ask a question of you, but our students just finished their elections, so you may have caught the wave effect of students campaigning and coming in and out of office. So that, if you were trying to reach student governments, that might have been an issue. But how did you access the faculty?
Well, we started actually with each of the faculty from all of the segments, like contacting ICAS and asking them to distribute it. We also sent it to the governing bodies through the academic senates, and then it's trickled down from there. Diego and Larry Hanley on the CSU right now, we're also responsible for sending it to academic senate presidents. I know on my campus I didn't see the survey come from my academic senate for about 4 weeks. I guess it was the beginning of May when I first saw it, and it was a process of email. We don't have an effective way to contact all CSU faculty across the board, unfortunately. If it does come across from the chancellor's office, it's sometimes lost. And we haven't sent it. I don't think it's been sent out of the chancellor's office.
Okay, that helps, and that may be why the numbers were skewed. Thank you.
Next, we have our liaison to the California State Student Association, Agatha Kusiski from Long Beach State, a 49er, fellow 49er.
Hi. First, I'd like to start off by saying they're very thankful that you're trying your best to reach out to students. But, yeah, we do have a lot of students who are turning out of office right now. So I'd say if you start contacting the new officers maybe like July 1st, then they'll probably see the email. Also, if you present to our student association, that might be very helpful as well. We move around every month, but you can go to our website which is www.csustudents.org. And you can find where our meetings are. I can also give you the contact for, do you know who Miles Nevins is?
Yeah, can you do me a favor and email all of that to me?
Yeah, I'll do all that. But yeah, but thank you for reaching out to us, and I'll send you all the other information. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I do know that Leslie Kennedy has been working through the Chancellor's office to try to contact a lot of the students. So it's sort of like the pub phenomenon, unfortunately, that if we run into somebody who knows somebody who has an email address of somebody, we yank them on them for all it's worth. And in the CSUs, we really thought that we had access to the students already and asked for confirmation from them. But we haven't heard much. I did send it out to my own students in my own classes, and I know that they responded. So I think they're probably just part of the 100.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, we have another on the speakers list, Senator Tom Krabacher from Sac State, and our ledge specialist in the Academic Senate CSU.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks for being here. And first, let me say how impressed I am with how quickly things seem to be falling into place over the period of a couple of short months. Because when we were looking at the legislation as it was being developed, it was looking like it'd be one of these cumbersome things that, when it came to implementation, would be almost impossible to pull together. So my question for you is this. Could you give us a sense of what your timeline is for COERC over the next couple of years, what you would like to accomplish by when? And then a second question, part of the original legislation called for the development of course materials de novo to serve these courses. And so far, it sounds like what you're doing is looking for materials that already exist out there. Do you see yourself going into the course development process at any point?
You mean course development or textbook
development? Materials development, yeah.
That will be the very last phase. One of the things that's most important in the legislation, and also to Hewlett and Gates, is faculty adoption of materials. So that faculty adoption comes in the fall. We start working with libraries and create a plan to help faculty to adopt and how to use the materials. And this includes things like including assignments to demonstrate to faculty how these particular textbooks are being used. The timeline is something that is according to the Hewlett Foundation grant, and the first issue that's come across in the timeline is that there was too much to do in February this year since we only convened in January. So I can tell you most assuredly by the end of the summer we want to have reviews completed of all the textbooks that we've already initiated and selected, post those on the digital library website. Of course, that means that we need to coordinate with the digital library to make sure that there is a website to engage with. And then once we hit the fall, what we're starting to do is education of open educational resources and materials. We'll do round 2 in choosing 5 different courses. So each semester we end up choosing 5 different courses and starting the review process. We've also started talking about having boot camps for faculty who would like to use the OER materials, maybe just a couple of days where we bring them in and we give them a little bit of help how to recreate their syllabi. The affordable learning process that's already out there, the grant that's already out there, is doing a little bit of that. In terms of a 2-year timeline, I don't have that in front of me, and one of the reasons why I didn't show you the big, huge timeline is because that it is shifting, and that every time we shift it, we have to get approval from Hewlett. But we have funding for the next year, and that's the only static timeline that we really have, and the funding for that year is what I've already laid out. We'll see if we're still around in the spring. I'm hopeful that we push forward enough that Gates also adds more money to the pot, because what it's going to take is giving faculty stipends to do the work. We can't do this stuff for free and then deposit it into a library. We really need a protocol for paying faculty to do this work, and then also students to do the reviews. And we also want to build up a review process that's ongoing. As people use it or different segments, we want to allow faculty and students to go in and rate it with stars or offer up information about use in a particular classroom or maybe one section of a material worked in another. So we've got a lot of pie in the sky, but it's achievable. We just depends on how much we can get done at the end of this session, at the end of the summer, and that sets us up for the fall. I know that's a little nebulous. Sorry about that. I've learned that we can promise, but we've tended to overpromise, and I want to scale back on that.
Thank you.
Our last senator at this moment is Senator Udelson, and he is from Channel Islands in the discipline of communications.
I am. First of all, I wanted to say how much I appreciate all your efforts. It's obvious that you spent quite a lot of time in developing this and working on this, so congratulations on all that. I teach public speaking, and I also teach persuasion and a few other things. When I get an email that says, congratulations, you've been asked to participate in a survey, I assume it's from a Nigerian who wants to give me money. So might I recommend that you might start with just a couple of sentences that say what you're doing. You know, do you want to save your students money? Most of us are going to say, yeah, and then say, by participating in this survey, et cetera, et cetera. So you might just reword that a little bit, because I don't know about a lot of other people, but I get requests for surveys all the time. And when I see survey in the first sentence, I almost always delete it. So that's number one. Number two, I seem to have this impact on women. Whenever I start talking, they disappear. There she is. It is a message. And the second thing is, in terms of reaching out to the students, I don't know if, and perhaps the student liaison can inform us, I don't know whether or not a lot of student governments have Facebook pages and whether you've tried to reach them through social media, because I know a lot of students will respond to that where they wouldn't respond to email. Other than that, thank you very much for all your work.
Before you go, can I ask you, did you get the original email for the survey?
I probably did. But I still haven't received the $10 million from the Nigerians, so I deleted it.
I think it did. It's a great suggestion, and we had Diego Bonilla is from communications as well, and he had the same comments about making sure that we interest people and engage them immediately. So we did start the survey out with similar to what you've suggested, and I think the subject line pulled it in as well. I'm not sure how to get faculty more engaged, other than it was suggested that maybe we do a drawing for an iPad.
Kathy, our speakers list is completed. I want to thank you so much for all of your efforts in leading this effort, and it is good to know that we have a CSU faculty member who is leading this effort. Next year, colleagues, the chair of the Academic Senate